So the first big express entry draw of 2026 just dropped a massive 8,000 invitations, and practically everyone expected the CRS score to finally take a nosedive. But it didn't. The score barely budged, dropping just a few points to 511, leaving thousands of hopefuls completely shocked, confused, and, let's be honest, pretty frustrated. If you're one of them, if you've been hitting refresh on your screen, scrolling through the forums, and just asking, what on earth just happened? Then you've come to the right place. In this video, we're not just going to skim the numbers you've already seen everywhere, we're going to break down the hidden reason why that score stayed so stubbornly high. A reason IRCC doesn't exactly broadcast, but one you absolutely need to understand. And more importantly, we're going to share our data-driven prediction on whether the next draw will finally break that dreaded 500-point barrier so many of you are waiting for. We are going to turn that frustration and confusion into a clear, actionable plan. So you'll want to watch right to the end, because the strategy for getting your invitation to apply in 2026 has completely changed, and this is the new playbook. The full breakdown, what exactly happened on January 7th. All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty of what went down. On January 7th, 2026, IRCC held a huge express entry draw, and on the surface, the numbers looked like the breakthrough everyone was praying for. First off, the draw was specifically for the Canadian Experience Class, CEC. This is a huge detail. It means the draw only targeted people who already have at least 1 year of skilled work experience inside Canada. This wasn't a free-for-all. It was for the very people IRCC keeps saying it wants to keep, our temporary workers and international grads. This focus on in-Canada talent is exactly why everyone's hopes were so high. Second, the size of the draw was just monumental. IRCC sent out a staggering 8,000 invitations to apply, ITAs. To put that in perspective, most CEC draws in 2025 were way smaller, sometimes inviting just a few thousand people. A draw of 8,000 is one of the largest CEC-only rounds we've seen in a long time, signaling that IRCC wanted to clear out a big chunk of the pool. When you pull 8,000 people from the top, the score should logically drop like a rock. At least, that's what we thought. This brings us to the third and most shocking number, the CRS cutoff score. It landed at 511. To call this an anticlimax is putting it mildly. After a string of draws in late 2025 with scores floating between 515 and 547, everyone thought an 8,000 ITA draw would be the event to finally crash the score, maybe by 15, 20, or even 30 points. Instead, it barely moved. It felt like a slap in the face for anyone sitting at 510, 505, or 499 who thought this was finally their shot. Finally, there's the tie-breaking rule. The timestamp was set for June 10th, 2025. Now, if you're new to this, the tiebreaker is how IRCC chooses between people who have the exact same score. If your score was 511, you only got an invite if you submitted your profile before that specific date and time. What this tells us is just how many people are clumped together at that 511 score. To get their 8,000 people, IRCC had to go back more than 6 months to find enough candidates who had been waiting the longest. This detail right here is our first major clue to the hidden reason we're about to unpack. It proves the competition isn't just fierce, it's unbelievably dense. So let's recap. A massive CEC-only draw, 8,000 invitations, and the score is still painfully high. This wasn't a mistake. It was the predictable outcome of something happening behind the scenes that most people never see. The hidden reason? Why the score didn't crash. So that's the what. Now for the most important question, why? Why did a massive 8,000 invitation draw feel like a tiny drop in a massive ocean? The answer, the hidden reason, is a concept called candidate clustering. Think of the express entry pool less like a simple bathtub, where draining water lowers the level evenly, and more like a huge, fast-moving river. IRCC sends out invitations from the top of that river, but new candidates are constantly flowing in. And here's the key. The current isn't smooth. There are spots where the water is incredibly deep and dense, where thousands of candidates are all bunched together. That's candidate clustering. Right now, there's a crazy concentration of candidates with scores between 500 and 520. We're talking about a logjam of thousands of highly qualified people all crammed into a tiny 20-point window. So when IRCC decides to issue 8,000 invitations, they aren't reaching down into the 490s or 480s. They are just skimming the top layer of this incredibly dense cluster. They invite 8,000 people, and the score only drops from 515 to 511 because there were way more than 8,000 people packed into that tiny 4-point range. So what's causing this? It's a perfect storm of a few factors that have been building for over a year. First, there was a pause on CEC draws back in 2025. For a few months, IRCC just stopped inviting them, which created a huge backlog of high-scoring, in-Canada applicants just waiting in the pool. These folks form the core of that high-scoring cluster. Second, the system is feeding itself. Candidates aren't just sitting around, they're smart, and they adapt. They see the high scores and react. They spend thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours retaking language tests to hit that perfect score. They enroll in a one-year program to get more education points. They make sure their spouse takes a language test for those extra spousal points. Every single person fighting for an extra 5 or 10 points just makes that cluster even denser, pushing more people from the 490s into the 500s. Third is the constant flood of new, high-quality candidates. Think of all the international students who finished their studies, got their work permits, and have now hit their 1 year of skilled work experience. They are jumping into the pool every single day with strong profiles, Canadian education, Canadian work experience, and high language scores. It's like trying to empty that river with a bucket while it's being fed by a powerful stream. And fourth, some provinces have seen a reduction in their provincial nominee program, PNP allocations. This might seem unrelated, but it's not. A lot of strong candidates who might have been pulled out of the pool by a province are now stuck competing with everyone else. We're talking about profiles in the high 400s, people who would have been a shoo-in with a PNP. Now, they're adding to the density. As of mid-January, there were nearly 73,000 candidates estimated to be in the 451-500 score range alone. So, the January 7th draw wasn't a failure. It was a mathematical certainty. It was a battle between a huge draw and an even bigger cluster of candidates. Understanding this is the key. The old mindset of "I'll just wait" is over. You're not just competing against a number, you're up against tens of thousands of motivated people all doing everything they can to get ahead. Now, before we get into our predictions and what this all means for that sub-500 dream, let me take a quick second. If you're finding this analysis helpful and it's clearing things up for you, do me a favor and hit that like button. It really helps the channel and lets YouTube know to share this with more people who are feeling just as lost as you might be. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. The Express Entry world is changing faster than ever, and we drop videos like this after every single draw to tell you what happened and what to do next. You don't want to miss it. All right, let's get to the million-dollar question. What's next? Will the CRS score finally break 500? This is the question that's keeping everyone up at night. After the shock of the January 7th draw, is there any hope left for the CRS score to finally dip below 500? The short answer is yes, it's possible. But it is definitely not guaranteed, and it all depends on what IRCC does next. Let's break down the scenarios. The optimistic path, back-to-back big draws. For the score to really drop, one large draw isn't enough. We need to see IRCC stay aggressive. The only way to chew through that massive cluster we talked about is to have multiple large back-to-back invitation rounds. What would that look like? Imagine another CEC draw in 2 weeks that also invites 6,000 to 8,000 people, and then another one 2 weeks after that. If IRCC did 2 or 3 of these inventory clearing rounds in a row, it would exhaust the supply of candidates in the 500-510 range and finally push the score down into the high 400s. One AI prediction model even suggested that with this strategy, the score could potentially hit 495 in 2026. This is the optimistic scenario, and it would line up with the government's stated goal of transitioning more temporary residents to permanent ones. Realistically, though, IRCC is going to mix things up. We might see another big draw, but it could be followed by a much smaller one or a completely different type. For example, just after this big CEC draw, on January 20th, IRCC held a provincial nominee program, PNP draw. These draws have super high scores. This one was 746, because getting a provincial nomination adds 600 points to your score. More importantly, IRCC will absolutely conduct more category-based draws. This is the new reality. It's not just about the highest score anymore. It's about your specific job or language skills. For 2026, the key categories are French language proficiency, healthcare, STEM, trades, transport, and agriculture occupations. These draws are a total game changer because they invite people with much lower scores. Based on trends, we could see scores for these categories fall into these ranges. French language proficiency, 395, 430. Healthcare occupations, 450, 490. STEM occupations, 480, 505. This creates a two-tier system. If you're not in one of these categories, you're fighting in the general draws where the score is sky high. If you are in one of them, you have a strategic backdoor to an ITA with a score that could be 100 points lower. If IRCC focuses on category draws, the general score could stay high or even climb. The big picture, immigration targets for 2026-2028. So what's the government's master plan? The Immigration Levels Plan for 2026-2028 aims to keep new permanent resident admissions stable at around 380,000 per year, with a strong focus on economic immigrants. This is good news. It means IRCC has to keep issuing a high volume of invitations to meet its targets. The question isn't if they'll invite people, but how. Will it be big general draws that lower the score for everyone, or targeted category draws that benefit specific profiles? The answer is probably a bit of both. So, will the score drop below 500? It could, but just waiting for it isn't a strategy. The real takeaway here is that you can't count on a general score drop to save you. You have to take control. Your action plan. How to win in this high-score environment. So, what does this all mean for you? Sitting around and hoping is the worst thing you can do. The era of passive waiting is over. This is the time for strategic, aggressive action. Let's build your new playbook. Pillar 1. Master your language score. This is non-negotiable. This is the most powerful thing you can control. The points for language are huge. Just moving from a CLB 9 to a CLB 10 can rocket your score up by 50 points or more. That alone can be the difference between being stuck at 480 and jumping to 530. Don't just take the IELTS or CELPIP. Prepare for it like it's the most important exam of your life, because it is. Invest in prep courses. Learn the strategies. Retake it until you've maxed out every single point. Pillar 2. The French language, superpower. If there's one hack in Express Entry right now, it's French. Canada is actively recruiting French speakers, which means IRCC is holding frequent, large, and low-score draws just for them. You can get up to 50 extra points for strong French skills, but more importantly, you become eligible for the French language category draws, where scores have been below 400. While everyone else is fighting to break 511, French speakers are getting invites with scores over 100 points lower. If you have any French background or are willing to learn, this is your golden ticket. Pillar 3, the Provincial Nominee Program, PNP, Goldmine. If French isn't for you, the PNP is your next best bet. A provincial nomination gives you 600 extra CRS points, which basically guarantees you an invitation. But you can't just wait for a province to notice you. You have to be a detective. Go to the websites for the immigration programs in Ontario, BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and others. Look for their Express Entry linked streams and their in-demand occupation lists. Is your job on one? If you're a software engineer with a 485 score, you might be a perfect fit for Ontario's tech draw. It's extra work, but that 600-point reward is life-changing. Pillar 4, Profile Optimization, the final 10%. Once you have a plan for language and PNPs, it's time to squeeze every last point from your profile. Education, got a second credential? Did you get your spouse's education assessed? Work experience, have you claimed all your eligible work history? Is your NOC code perfectly aligned with a target occupation? Spousal points, if you're applying with a partner, can they be your secret weapon? Their language test could add 20 points, and their education assessment another 10. That's 30 points you might be leaving on the table. The message is clear. Every single point is a battle. You need to fight for every one. Answering your top questions. Let's quickly tackle a few questions I see all the time. First, should I even bother entering the pool if my score is only 470? An absolute, unequivocal yes. You have to be in the pool to play the game. You can't get a category-based invite or a PNP notification if you're not in there. A profile, even with a lower score, makes you visible and eligible. Second, how long will scores stay this high? While scores go in cycles, the game has changed. The pool is bigger and more competitive now. With category-based draws, IRCC has less reason to let the general score drop dramatically. You should assume that high scores for general draws are the new normal, which makes targeting a category or PNP even more important. Third, is it better to have Canadian experience or be a skilled worker from abroad? This January 7th draw shows IRCC's love for the Canadian experience class. But the new categories change the math. A healthcare worker from abroad with a 460 score might get an invite before a CEC candidate with a 510 score in a general draw. It's no longer about CEC versus FSW. It's about whether your profile matches a category IRCC is targeting. Let's bring this all together. The January 7th draw wasn't an anomaly. It was a lesson. It taught us that in this new era of express entry, huge draws don't automatically mean huge score drops. The candidate clustering at the top of the pool is a powerful force keeping scores high. The dream of the CRS score dropping below 500 is still alive, but it depends on IRCC making moves that you can't control. What you can control is your strategy. The path to an ITA in 2026 isn't a single highway where only the highest score wins. It's now a complex road network. While the main highway is jammed, there are other routes. The category-based draws for healthcare and tech, the French language superhighway, and the PNP Gold Pass. These routes can get you to your destination much faster. Your job is to stop waiting in traffic and start looking for these alternative routes. Be proactive. Be strategic. Turn your anxiety into action. That is how you win in 2026. I know this was a lot to take in, and honestly, trying to figure out how all of this fits your exact profile can feel confusing and stressful. But here's the good news. You don't have to do this alone. If you want clear, personalized guidance and a custom step-by-step strategy built specifically for your age, score, experience, and goals, you can book a one-on-one consultation with me and my expert team. We'll break everything down for you, avoid costly mistakes, and show you the fastest and safest path forward. The link to book your session is waiting for you in the description below. Don't delay opportunities that could change your future. And before you go, if this video gave you clarity, confidence, or even one new insight, hit that like button so more people can benefit from this information. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for the latest express entry updates, rule changes, and real-world strategies you won't hear anywhere else. Your Canadian dream is not over. It's still alive. It just needs the right direction, the right timing, and the right plan. I'll see you in the next video. The information shared in this video is for educational and informational purposes only. Immigration rules, policies, and procedures can change at any time, and individual cases may vary. This content should not be considered legal advice or a substitute for professional consultation. While we strive to provide accurate and up-to-date information, we make no guarantees regarding eligibility, approval, or outcomes. Viewers are strongly advised to consult with a licensed immigration consultant or authorized professional before making any immigration-related decisions. By watching this video, you acknowledge that the creator and their team are not responsible for any decisions, actions, or outcomes based on the information provided.